we're coming from the car again. This time we're driving down to Indianapolis for a thing for work. I mean, there's very few people on the road right now, and we're literally just on the highway. So I wanted to come to you guys to talk to you really quick about something that kind of got brought up in some comments that on one of my videos. It was the Tank Foglio witness review video, and in that video I said that the witness's trigger was okay. When I was talking about it, I said it's what you get for 250 bucks. And I got into a long conversation with somebody who obviously prefers double action, single action triggers, and was talking about how even at $250, the witness trigger is better than a Glock trigger. So I wanted to toss this in there and kind of talk to you guys about triggers and about what you get for the money versus what is preferred versus what is best for someone. So pretty much what it comes down to is this guy was saying that even at $250, he would take the Tank Foglio because it allowed him to carry cocked and locked over pretty much anything else. And when I was talking about that, I was basically saying that the witness trigger, now the witness is, if you don't know, the witness is a polymer frame Tank Foglio handgun. It's kind of entry level, bottom line. It's not super smooth, not super clean. It's a well-made gun. I mean, I had one, I sold it. I wasn't the biggest fan, but it doesn't matter. It's still a well-made gun. It's a decent gun. It's a serviceable gun. But when I was talking about the trigger, I said that's what you get for 250 bucks because the trigger in a Tank Foglio witness is not on par with say like a standard CZ75 trigger, something that you get in like a $550 to $650 gun depending on the model of 75 that you're getting. But the witness trigger is not on par with that, and you know, just be ready for that when you're buying that gun. But this guy was arguing with me that it was still a great trigger, and I wasn't saying that it was a bad trigger. I'm saying that it's a $250 trigger. And his biggest point in that was not how good it was compared to CZs or other double action, single action triggers, but how good it was compared to striker triggers. And so I said, but you can't compare this trigger directly to like a stock Glock trigger or something. They have different purposes. Yeah, a single action trigger in a single action, double action gun is going to be crisper than a Glock trigger. But a lot of people don't want a single action, double action gun. They don't want to have to worry about a safety or a long burst trigger pull. And that's their prerogative, but you can't toss your preference for a double action, single action gun into the hat when you're arguing about trigger quality on an overall massive scale. For 250 bucks, you're probably not going to get as good of a striker trigger as you are a hammer trigger. Like the Tank Foglio trigger is probably a better double action, single action trigger than like a Smith & Wesson SD9 or something like that. So as I said, like it's a decent trigger, but you can't toss your own preference. Like I prefer double action, single action guns. I do, but I'm not going to say that the Tank Foglio for $250 is a better option for everybody than a Glock trigger just because I prefer double action, single action guns. In addition to that, not pointing out the price point of a Tank Foglio at $250. It is not the same as a CZ75 trigger. It's just not. It would be like saying that a Smith & Wesson SD9 trigger is the same as a Glock trigger. They're not. The Glock trigger is better. I mean, it doesn't matter if you like single action and double action or if you like striker fire. The SD9 trigger is not as good as the Glock trigger. The Tank Foglio witness trigger is not as good as a standard 75 trigger. And it would be like saying that a standard 75 trigger is as good as a Shadow 2 trigger. They're not, you know? So don't toss your personal preference of which firing system you like in and get pissed at me for pointing out that it's not as good of a trigger as other triggers in its category. There probably aren't better double action, single action triggers for 250 bucks, but you spend double that and you can get a better trigger. It's as simple as that. So when I'm pointing out prices and things, don't think that I'm slighting them or that I'm somehow trying to call fallacy on them. I'm not. I'm just pointing out that you're paying 250 bucks for a gun. Don't expect the stuff that you get for twice that amount of money. You just can't. It's very rarely going to happen that way. So just remember that. Like when you're talking to friends and stuff about triggers and about what you get for the money, just remember that, like, just because someone points out, hey, this is kind of a cheap gun, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, but it's probably not going to be as good as a gun that you get for twice that much. So that's it for this time, guys. Just thoughts from the car while heading down to Indianapolis. Remember, guys, I appreciate every one of you, and until next time, do your research, get informed, and get to work.